So welcome to week 2 of our 30 days of yoga challenge, so day 8. So thank you very much for continuing to join me, and just take a moment to acknowledge how well you're doing to persevere and to honour the commitment that you made to yourself. So I hope you're enjoying the practices each day, and just that awareness that this commitment to step onto your mats is an action of an act of self-love and self-care. So with that in mind, we're just going to take our hands over our heart center and just breathe into the heart space. So sitting comfortably, sitting up tall, softening the shoulders, drawing up through the crown of the head, and just breathe into the heart space. As you're breathing in, the heart, the chest expands. As you breathe out, the heart softens. You're softening the space around the heart. We'll just do this a few more times, breathing in and breathing out. Really tuning into the breath, into the heart, breathing in, exhaling, softening. And then we're just going to open our eyes back into the space. We'll take the hands onto the knees, and we're going to do a few kind of rounds of what is called Sufi Grinding. So we are opening the space around the heart and creating flexibility around the upper back, upper chest. So hands to the knees. We're breathing in, so we're circling, breathing in as we come through that first half circle, breathing out as you come around the back of the circle. Okay, so breathing in, opening the chest, gaze can come up. Exhale, draw the chin towards the chest. And we're going to do this 3 more times. So we're going to do 5 times each side. So a little bit of flexibility, fluidity around the spine, chest. Okay, last time. Breathing in, breathing out as you come around the back, coming back to center. Exactly the same to the other side. So exhaling round the back, inhaling round the front. So softening or relaxing the shoulders, really feeling that release. It's such a nice release, really. This is the 3rd time, isn't it? So 2 more times, really good for the spine as well. You're only going as kind of deep into the circle as is available. You might find you start with smaller circles first time you try it. No, that's fine. Okay, and then coming back to center, and then just back. We're going to come to Gomukasana. So this is cow face pose. Let's bring the legs, we'll bring the legs into position first of all. Let me think which way. We're going to take the right leg over. So you're stepping the foot over, and if possible, you're going to come onto the tops of the toes. So rather than the sole of the foot, tops of the toes. If this leg is happy to bend under, we're going to bend this leg under, and we're going to sit kind of between the heels. So you're working towards, this is all working towards knees being stacked and the heels to the sides of the kind of bottom hips. Okay, so it doesn't matter if it's not exactly all in this place, it's just you know where you're heading within your body. So Gomukasana, cow face pose. The knees are supposed to represent the cow's lips, and then we're going to bring the arm into place now. So you're going to take your left arm up and reach between the shoulder blades. So that hand is going to reach between the shoulder blades, opening the elbow back. So we're not going to keep it there if we can help it. We're going to try to keep that open for that nice stretch up the inside, or the outside rather, of the arm there. The other hand is reaching around, so you might naturally be able to clasp the hands behind the back, or you might find that there's quite a distance between. So you just kind of work with what's available. If you've got a strap, if you have a yoga strap and you have it with you, or you've got a belt, we've used it in previous class, then you can take hold of either end of the strap, and you just inch your hands closer together. So it just avoids the need for the hands to touch. So come to the position that's available for you. If you're clasping, obviously makes it a little bit tighter, so a stronger stretch, but just think about keeping this up. Okay, you will find you're opening through the chest a little bit, soften the spine so you're not kind of flaring the low back. It's quite an intense posture. a really deep hip opener and a heart opening pose as well, as quite strong releasing through the shoulders. So we're going to just close our eyes. We're going to really sit into the pose. You're going to be aware of getting heavy through the sit bones, of a pretty strong stretch across the outer hips, pretty intense around the shoulders. If it starts to feel too much, you can just release a little. You don't have to keep clasped if it feels too strong. Breathing into it, and then we're going to turn slightly towards that top elbow. So you've got a little bit of a twist, and it's deepening that opening along the side body or up the side body. So let's just breathe, a couple of deep breaths. Okay, and then coming back to center. Releasing the arms. You've got quite an intense, pretty glowing through the arms and shoulders. So a few circles one way, a few shoulder rolls rather the other way. That should feel good. And then we're going to do exactly the same to the other side. So we'll let the legs come back to center. We're going to bring the left leg over this time. So we're just reversing the pose. Tops of the toes possibly, bottom leg possibly bent under. And then you've got your same position, cow's lips, cow's ear. Oh, it's such a nice stretch. Oh, I just think about, it might be different one side to the other, so I got a bit cramp. You can get a bit cramp if you go onto the tops of the toes. So if that's not good, then just stay on the sole of the foot. Then you can use your strap if that's helpful. And soften the spine so you're not over flaring like this, but you've got a softness. And breathe into it. See, okay, it's going on everywhere. Knees, hips, chest, shoulders. So it's a pretty intense pose. Sit heavy into it, so it can be a nice grounding pose. So be aware of the sit bones. Breathe. And then we're just going to turn towards that top elbow. So you've got that extra, a little bit of a twist, an extra stretch up the side body. Breathing as deeply as you can. Hips soft, knees soft. So relaxing again, there's a deep stretch pretty much everywhere. And then coming slowly back to center, releasing the clasp. And then a couple of shoulder rolls, or just kind of shrugs, let the shoulder go. So fantastic for releasing any tightness around the shoulders in particular as well. We're going to come onto all fours. So a few cat cows. So we know our cat cows now. A few cat cows just to get the spine a little bit more involved. Wrists under shoulders, knees under hips. Breathing in, gaze forward. So you're just dropping the belly button down. And then as you're breathing out, you're drawing the belly button in, chin towards the chest, so you're really stretching across the back of the shoulders, the back of the neck, drawing the bottom under, do a nice release for the low back. And we'll do this a couple more times. So go with your breath. So I'm just here as the guide. You're just going to let your breath kind of lead the movement. Breathing in, breathing out. Scooping up belly towards the spine. Last time, drawing up and then coming back to neutral, and we're going to come to extended puppies. It's got lots of different names, this one. Extended puppy pose. Untitled, if I'm not mistaken. And then we're going to come, oh actually I like the yin name better, Anjali Asana, so melting heart pose. We're going to come down onto the forearms. You can still see me. Yes, so you've got your hips over your knees. This is your kind of start position. You can take hold of the inside of the elbows, so you're holding, so you've got your forearm distance apart. Your head might rest to the forearms, or you might go a little deeper, forehead to the mat. If you're comfortable to stretch the arms out, if the shoulders are happy, then you're stretching those arms out and letting their forehead come to the mat here. So you've got options, arms extended, arms bent, forehead to the mat, or to the forearms. And you're allowing your heart to sink, to melt towards the mat. So it's a pretty strong shoulder stretch, a pretty strong spine release. back bend. Okay. If it's too much, if it feels too much to have the hips forward, you can bring the hips back a little, and then you might find that that takes a little of the depth out of the back bend. Okay, so we're just going to take a few breaths here. It's a really beautiful stretch. The heavier you get in the body, the deeper the release, the stretch. Through the shoulders, through the spine. Okay, and then we're just going to ease ourselves in. So if the arms are extended, bring the arms in, come back onto the hands, and then we're going to pop up into downward facing dog. Just to bring ourselves through to Anjali Asana, so a low lunge. We're going to take the right leg out behind, swing through between the hands, and set up for our low lunge. So your back knee is down, toes are untucked if possible. Okay, if it's comfortable on the knee, you might want a blanket. I did have a blanket somewhere. You can pop a blanket under the knee if it feels too intense. Okay, so your Anjali Asana, crescent lunge, another name. Arms overhead, possibly. If it's too intense, you can just keep the hands to the floor, or you can take the hands to the knee or to the heart center. So you just find within all the poses what suits your body. If it's too open through the hips, you just shift the hips back a little, okay? Hands can be together. Let's just take 2 more breaths here. Then we're going to take the hands down through prayer. You're going to plant one hand to the inside of the front foot and then opening to the other side, or into a twist, okay? And then just taking a moment. So revolve, twist, Parivrtta Anjali Asana, and then coming back to center. Tuck those back toes, make it easier to get back to downward facing dog. So just come for a moment, downward facing dog, so we can sit up to the other side. So you're taking the left leg out behind, moving through into your low lunge. Okay, so making sure you're doing your other leg. I've probably got my left and right's a bit confused. So as long as you're doing both sides, setting up for your low lunge, knees to the floor, toes untucked possibly, hands can stay here, they can come here, here, or overhead, and we'll just take another few breaths here. So once you're in your comfortable position, remember, if it's too strong on the hip flexors, you just shift the hips back, okay? Don't want to overstretch. You just find so you can feel that nice release here, but nothing too much. Okay, we're going to bring those hands down, coming into revolved variation. So one hand to the floor, to the inside of the foot, front foot, and then opening towards that front leg. Okay, so exactly the same, but just to the other side. Keep breathing. You can feel that nice release through the upper back. Okay, coming back to center, tuck those back toes, help you get back to downward facing dog. Okay, just take a moment here, lifting up through the bottom and the hips. Nice wide spread of the fingers, shoulders away from the ears. And then we're just going to bring the feet towards the hands. You can just kind of step the feet towards the hands. You're coming into Uttanasana now. Straighten the legs if that feels all right. Shift the weight into the balls of the feet. Let's still got the heels down, but just a little bit more weight to the balls of the feet. Let the upper body hang, so the arms might dangle. You might take hold of the inside of the elbows. Just feel that lovely release. Release the jaw, release the cheeks. Shake the head, nod the head. Just get everything relaxed. And then we're going to take the hands to the hips and we're just going to nice and slowly roll up to standing. Okay, so we're going to have a look at Natarajasana, dancer's pose. This is a balance. We're just going to, it's quite strong opening, it's a back bend, so it's our connecting with our idea of self-love, so we're opening the heart, but it's also working with flexibility through the quads here and a standing balance and using the focus and everything. So we're going to take the weight into the left, the left leg, and take hold of the other foot. So I've come this way. You can take hold of the other foot encourage the heel towards the bottom. So it might not be anywhere near the bottom, but if you're naturally able to, you're just drawing a little bit closer. Be mindful of the knees. So any pinching of the knees, you're not going to want to hold too tight, okay? It is a balance, but if you need to come to the wall or a chair or a sofa, and rest a hand there, that's absolutely fine as well. This is your practice. I'm just going to come back a little, okay? So this is a balance in itself, so we're just going to take our drishti, so our focal point. You're going to feel that stretch through the quads here, so through the front of the thighs. Breathing. Okay. Nice and grounded. Through that standing leg, you can lift and spread the toes if that's helpful, or just kind of untuck them if you feel that they're scrunching up. Do the same to the other side, so we're going to take hold of the other foot. Again, feel that lovely stretch through the quadriceps, so the muscles at the front of the leg, or the thigh area here. Okay, again, your drishti is always helpful. Breathing. So obviously not a back bend at this point, we're just looking at the opening up, preparing the quads, the legs, taking the leg down. So we're going to layer on here. I'm going to come sideways on so that you can see kind of what my spine is doing. So we come back to the first side, you're taking hold of that foot, so exactly the same. You might find more comfortable to hold this side, this way, so either kind of like a closed grip or an open grip. That's going to be personal choice at this stage with variation we're looking at. You're just going to see what feels more comfortable for your shoulder. So you're taking hold of the foot, you're keeping kind of hips level, shoulders level. So when we're not opening out, we're keeping kind of closed in that sense. The other arm is coming out in front, kicking the foot behind you. You might go a little deeper into it, or you might stay a little bit more upright, okay? So you're finding your position within Natarajasana, so dancer's pose, and we're going to take a few breaths here. So find your drishti, so find your focus, keep kind of zoning into that focal point, soften the toes, breathe, keep breathing. Okay, and then slowly coming out. Good, and then we'll do exactly the same, losing my balance, exactly the same to the other side. So we've warmed up the quads here. We're going to take hold of that foot. Again, you've got that choice, that closed grip, that open grip. Hands to kind of to eye level, so your drishti is on your, well actually beyond, but you're bringing your hand to about eye level, kicking the foot into the hand. Find your balance, trying to close the shoulder of the hip if you can. You might go a little deeper into it, you might stay more upright, so kicking, breathing. Try and keep your drishti, so that focal point, stay with the breath. Okay, and then coming slowly back to centre. And then we're going to come into Parsvottanasana. So from centre, we're going to turn to the right side. You're going to have, actually we'll have the hands in reverse prayer, possibly. So you're reverse Namaste here, or you're taking hold of the inside of the elbows. This is just to help to open the chest. So rather than doing this, so keeping nice and open, you might find you can kind of put your hands in between the shoulder blades. Shoulders are relaxed. Elbows are back, lift, feet are facing the same direction, so about 3 feet apart. Hips are closed, so not open, but closed. Breathe in, lift up, lengthen, and we'll come down to about parallel. Okay, so you might find, if it's too strong on the back, you might find you're more just leaning a little bit forwards. If you can come to parallel, then we'll just go to about parallel. Lengthen out through the crown of the head. We'll just take a couple more breaths here. So Parsvottanasana, pyramid pose. Okay, keep the breath flowing. So it's nice hamstring stretch, strong for the spine, working around the hips as well, opening the heart. Releasing the hands now. Just let the hands come down, maybe to the mat, might touch the mat. You might find you're resting to the low leg. And just let the upper body get a little heavier. Stretch a little deeper. Okay, so you should feel this pretty nice through the back of the front leg in particular, so your hamstrings. Okay, in inversion as well, head below the heart, so you've got the benefit of extra oxygen and blood moving towards the eyes, towards the brain. I'm going to take the hands to the hips, going to come up nice and slow. And do exactly the same to the other side. So turning around to the other side. Hands back into the same position, so it might be reverse prayer, reverse namaste, or holding the inside of the elbow. So the aim is just to keep the chest open, lifting up, so the feet are tracking again, so no twisting through the knees. Lift up and forward, so it's just like so it's not like this, because it's so pulling on the back. You want to think about lifting up and then hinging from the hips. Okay, that's the kind of action you want to feel happening. That hip is closed, so we're not opening like this. We're keeping the hips level if we can. Gaze can come to the floor, just slightly forward to the top of the mat, so whichever's comfortable for your neck. And breathing. So check in with what you're feeling here. Keeping those elbows back. Feel beautiful hamstring stretch. Nice and open across the chest. Let's take another breath or two. Soften those toes. And then release those hands. Let the hands come down, maybe to the floor, maybe to the low leg. Just get a little bit more weight into it. Okay, pretty intense. And then take the hands to the hips, come up nice and slowly. And then we're going to turn to face front. We're going to bring the toes facing out, heels in. We're going to come down through a squat. So you've got your hands to prayer at the heart center. You're bending, knees tracking over toes, and you're going to come down. You might have to adjust the positioning of the feet a little. You might be on your toes, you might have heels down. Just come to your yogic squat, so malasana. So we just take a couple of breaths here. Okay, so we're going to come into Ustrasana. Have a look at Ustrasana, which is camel pose. So you're coming to high kneeling. If you've got blocks to hand, have them to hand. There's a kind of option, possibility to use them. We're going to tuck the toes to begin with. If it's not comfortable to tuck the toes, leave them untucked. Okay, so lots of variations. All our bodies are different, so we just kind of fit the pose to our body rather than trying to sort of contort ourselves to get into positions. So you want to keep those hips forward. You're going to bring, so I'm going to show you with the block as well. You want the hips to stay forward, shoulders to stay forward. You kind of gentle variation, so a half camel we'll look at first of all. We'll have the hand to the low back. You're just going to take the other hand, so if it's the right hand here, left hand extended. Keep those hips forward. You might bring the hand just forward like this. You might take the arm up. Okay, so you might be here, so you're supporting the spine. You might have the hand to the heel, so you're here or up. Or if you're using a block, you can have the block here, make it a little easier. Keep the hips closed or facing forwards and find your position. So coming into your variation of half camel pose. Don't strain the neck, so you can always keep the gaze forwards like this. You're keeping the hips pressed so that you're really kind of, you're not squashing into the low back, you're keeping space here. Okay, and then just come up. It's a small movement, one of those ones that looks really simple when you're watching someone else do it, but when you're actually doing it yourself, it can actually be quite strong. So we're doing exactly the same to the other side. We'll come into the position, so you've got your options now, and we're just going to take 3 breaths, okay? So holding, finding your position, so maybe low back, maybe onto the block, maybe onto the heel. Toes can be untucked, remember. Press those the hips forward, maybe the gaze forward with the arm, maybe coming up. Okay, so find what feels good for you, taking a couple more breaths. Okay, don't strain the neck, and then coming up. And let's just take a moment, bottom towards the heels. Let's fold forwards. Again, you might be completely fine, you might have a really flexible open spine, but just in the event that feels quite strong, just take a moment into child's pose, so arms can come by the side if you wish. Okay, just another breath. It just helps to release the low back. And then coming up to sitting up. Okay, good. Just a progression from here to have a look at full camel. Exactly the same, so same choice of arm placement, maybe behind to support the low back if you don't want to arch too much, maybe the hand onto the block on the heels, on the feet, or maybe the hands to the heels. So you find your option. Remember, the toes can be untucked, so I'll just show with this variation as well. Sorry, lots of fiddling. I don't mean to do it. So you might be here, you might be hands to a block, you might find the heels a little bit further, and then you're really opening through the front of the body. Gaze might be forward or gaze might be up, and you're just going to take a few breaths, or a couple of breaths. Just don't strain the head or the neck. Okay. And then just slowly, so come out nice and gently. Okay, and then we'll just take a moment into child's pose again. So you don't have to stay for ages. You can, you know, if you like the pose, remember you can weave it into your own kind of practice. It's quite a strong pose actually, Ustrasana for the spine. Okay, I find it actually strongest on my neck in these positions, so that's why I don't advise holding them too long if you don't feel comfortable through the neck, or always keep that gaze forward. So we're just going to close with a twist, so just come into a seated position, however's comfortable, just easy seat or half lotus, whichever you wish. We're just going to take your left hand to the opposite knee. You can take the back of the hand over, one hand behind, lift up through the chest. And just turn towards that back shoulder. So nice and open through one side here. Breathe as deeply as you can. Okay. Maybe feel that release through the upper back, coming slowly back to centre. You can change the cross of the legs if you wish. And then exactly the same to the other side. So one hand on the knee, back of the hand, one hand behind. Lifting up and out of the chest, shoulders soft, lots to think about. And breathing. Okay, and then slowly back to centre. Okay, so well done. Again, another act of self-love, joining me on the mat and just kind of being kind to yourself, looking after your body and your mind. So we'll just, actually let's bring the hands back to the heart center. So closing the eyes, let the shoulders relax. Breathe into the heart space, so lots of postures to focus on creating space and flexibility around the heart, around the upper back in particular. A little softness into this area. Okay. And then we're just going to release the hands, open the eyes, and I'm going to thank you for joining me again today. Namaste. And I'll see you again tomorrow.